All right, let's do this. Computers keep changing the world, but their power and safety is limited by their rigid design. The T2 project works for bigger and safer computing using living systems principles. Follow our progress here on T2sday Updates. So, we are live once again. If you saw last T2sday Update, it was one mess after another. Two me's on the screen, pushing buttons, playing videos that didn't belong in the thing, okay, whatever. But now, check it out. This is the Elgato StreamDeck. It's a macro keyboard with, I've got the version with 15 buttons on it, and can you see that? It's got a screen underneath so you can customize what's on each button so you can tell what it is. This has really helped out a lot, and hey, it fits right between the place where there aren't any keys on my Kinesis keyboard. So now let's go back to the slides, which is obviously this guy. So, getting the Elgato in the StreamDeck integrated into this whole setup triggered a whole bunch of other stuff. I completely redid my OBS, the broadcast studio software. This doesn't really make much sense, but trust me, this list of scenes is much simpler than it was before. And in the process, I ended up switching to the Mate window manager made by the folks at Arch Linux. And it's been great. Switching to Ubuntu 2004 was absolutely worth it for getting more modern software and being able to do this OBS at all. But it used this GNOME Shell 3 window manager that I absolutely hated with. I fought with it. It had absolutely completely ridiculous behavior that, like, my hotkeys, my keyboard shortcuts wouldn't work, and then they would work after 5 minutes when I did nothing. The Mate desktop, the Mate window manager, was based on GNOME 2, which was the last one that made sense to me. Yay, thank you, Mate folks, Arch Linux folks. So that's good. Hey, I'm even a gamer now. I have one of these things, and of course, with a game that nobody on Earth plays anymore. Well, that's not true. There's still a lot of people that do it, but it's not one of the modern games. All right. Oh, and this is not relevant if you're watching the upload, but for the folks, anybody who's watching the live stream either now or when it's recorded, I tried putting some actual music from the last millennium in it, and it came from Wintergatan, which put up this collection of music, original music, volume 1, that was licensable for anybody. And so the track I used was called Paradise, I don't know, and this is the message that I put up for it, and so on. There's also an official license to use the music of Wintergatan for video and live backstream music, and then that's what I'm doing. So here's the license. I was a little bit worried because the license goes on to tell us a bunch of stuff to avoid being surprised by faulty external content ID claims. I've never had any kind of content ID claim of any kind. We'll see what happens. But the music is going to be on the live stream, but it's not going to be on the upload, so hopefully we'll be okay no matter what. But this goes to the bigger picture of, this is Martin Molin, who is the, part of Wintergatan, who is, like I said, he's my spirit animal. He's my spirit guide. He built this marble machine and then started a second generation version of it and has been documenting it all on YouTube. And, he's a gigantic, millions of subscribers, hundreds of thousands of views and so forth. And I watch it too. And I was getting a little worried about him, actually, because, he'd been gone all summer long. And he said he was taking a break, and I was worrying that, maybe he was a little stressed, but then I went to check about getting the license for this stuff, and he put up the first video in ages about, earlier today. So I'm glad that Martin is back, because I need him to continue to be my spirit guide. I haven't watched the latest video yet, but look at this. Links to the videos featured. He's going to be talking about the Starbase, the Everyday Astronaut video with Elon Musk as well. Speaking of which, my full flow Staged combustion cycle mug showed up. It's really quite nice. It's 12 ounces. It's good. So okay, now I didn't actually pay anything for the Wintergatan music, but I'm going to get some swag, so it'll be all right. So that's just early setup. The topic for today is stress testing and resilience, which is actually something that Martin talks about a lot as he's gotten deeper into the Marvel Machine X project. I'm going to talk about it in terms of the T2 tile project specifically, and maybe a little bit in general as well, and also in terms of me, stress testing me and the resilience of me. I feel like we need to have a little bit of a reset, a little bit of a gut check to see about exactly where we are. So, okay, status report for the project itself, and then for T2sday Updates, this YouTube channel, let's go. The purpose of the T2 tile project, well, we just heard it in the opener, working for bigger and safer computing using living systems principles. And I've been working on the relationship of living systems and computational systems for my whole career, basically, one way or another, from neural nets to artificial life to biological approaches to computer security and so forth. And, and I've done a lot of work there that, I'm proud of and that I feel good about. But it also sort of revealed the limitations of the traditional approaches, which propelled me to say, well, someone's got to bite the bullet and say, let's try a whole new stack. That's what we're doing here. It's a big project. The T2 tile project, by the numbers, 55,000 lines of code in MFM and 80,000 and 30,000 in the T212 support package. Now, lines of code is a terrible thing to use to measure progress. In particular, changes in lines of code is a terrible metric for a project. But nonetheless, absolute numbers do help give one a sense of how terrified one should be of a code base. And this thing is really coming along. And we've built a lot of different simple demos of simple, spatially distributed, robust, more or less, fork bomb, anti-fork bomb, mob swap line printers, the membranes and so forth, tons of things. But that, all of it put together, is still miles away from, Excel macros, let alone computer games and so on and so forth. A whole new stack is a big project. T2sday Updates. The purpose of the T2sday Update YouTube channel is it's got two purposes. Out in the world is to do outreach to find folks that might be interested in trying to do the design effort, do the computer architecture effort to find a new approach, find a robust approach to do this. And then for me, looking inwards to give me some kind of motivation so that I don't let too many just weeks and months go by without getting something done after I retired from academia to focus on the T2 tile project in 2018. So the channel started in October 9th in 2018. It's been going for 1,085 days. It's going to be 3 years in October, real soon. We've had 107 T2sday updates. The first 78 mostly were weekly, which completely killed me. And since then, it's been bi-weekly or whatever when I had misses or took a break. We've had 32,000 views all put together. Now, of course, from the point of view of any monster YouTube success of any scale, that's, a total rounding error. I mean, so like Martin's latest video, the one that I just showed a screenshot of from earlier today, already had double that just for one video in the first 4 hours. So, yes, this is the teeniest, tiniest little thing. But, the material is extremely niche. And, that's just the fact of it. And the 675 subscribers, it goes up and down because it is so niche. I thank you folks so much for dropping in, the folks that actually come for the live stream. It's super helpful. People that actually watch updates between one and the next is great, and then it becomes part of the backlist. It's all great. It's served the purpose of providing me motivation, and maybe if the outreach could go better, it still could. It can happen. We'll see what happens as we go forwards. So, status report, T2 tile project status report on me. I have two purposes in the world that, depending on what hat I think I'm wearing. Number one, to make the world a better place. I got that from my parents, and it seems sort of self-evident, like most things that we get from our parents. And also, make something, do something by itself. That's what I talked about in the retirement talk when I left academia. It seemed like this was clear that this was my mission in life. And those are related, but they're not the same goal. And in fact, when I did the Tectonic podcast with Mark Hurst, in effect, he was kind of pushing me a little bit. Are you sure that the thing that you're making that will do something by itself will make the world a better place and won't get co-opted by big tech and so forth? And that's a real issue, and I'm not sure. But I'm still believing that we've got to do something about the situation that we're in with respect to computing and the way that we've been doing it. Dave, by the numbers, 23,000 days old. I'm going to be 65 in a couple of months. The T2 goals that I've postulated in all the T2sday updates, I have failed in vastly more than I've succeeded. Part of that is because developing for the T2 tiles, the actual T2 tiles that we've got here, is hard. They're not very powerful. To build the simulator takes anywhere between a few up to almost a half an hour, depending on how much of it has to be rebuilt. To build just a simple little demo can easily take 2 to 5 minutes or even more in each time you make any little change. And so forth. And finding the failures is difficult and so forth, blah, blah, blah. Nobody cares about creators who want to whine about their creative process. But of course, creators want to whine about it all the time because they need excuses for not making more progress. But for me, the usable code I can generate in a day is absolutely decreasing. I mean, that's been true for the last 20 years, but it's still true. It's still decreasing. But worse, the sort of joy, the frequency that I get out of making something new and saying, oh, that's cool, that's been decreasing lately, and the frequency with which I just kind of lose it completely has been increasing. And so that's why I feel like I need some kind of little bit of a reset. So, yes, make the world a better place. Yes, make something, do something by itself because that's cool. Yes. But in any case, try to make the best of the time that we've got here. That's what I'm trying to remind myself. And again, this is all totally obvious, but I've been stressing, lately, trying to move the project forward. I feel like I've been getting too serious, too pompous, not having enough fun. And I want to try to remind myself about that. I mean, when I started this thing and I was originally trying to figure out how to do the mechanical engineering, the electrical engineering, the logistics and getting parts from all around the world and so forth to actually build these things, I mean, I had updates that were all about glue. I haven't done that kind of thing in quite some time. So I used to say software guy lost in hardware land. Well, now it's software guy lost in software land, which, sounds kind of embarrassing, but this is robust first software land. It's a lot different. It's a lot harder. And sometimes I worry. I admit, I confess to you folks that, what if robust first is not just harder, but what if it's too hard? What if, there really is no better way than just, well, if you don't have hardware determinism, then just lay on software redundancy as much as you can until you can get a software CPU and RAM and then go from there. I mean, that would be a big disappointment, and I don't think that's where we're going to end up. But sometimes I do worry. And, one thing I feel like when I was trying to get all pompous and show progress was I wasn't being completely honest with y'all. And so that's what I think I absolutely need to do, is the highs and the lows. So I've been worrying. I've been worrying about, is it going to be too hard? And maybe there will be in 50 years, there'll be much more awareness of the alternatives of what we've got now and the cost of what we've got now. And it'll be easier for folks to take a run at it. It'll succeed then. Maybe, who knows? But in any event, this is my reminder for me. This is my affirmation. Whether it's too hard or not, let's try to have fun along the way. All right. So, stress testing, we've been trying to, there's the T2 tiles have these weird cases that I haven't diagnosed that are extremely rare, hard to find, where at the moment the grid just goes down because I don't have any way to handle it yet because I haven't written any code. the obvious thing to do is to be working on the tiles all the time with those 20 minutes and all that stuff, and try to get a better handle on it. But part of the reason I haven't been able to make progress on that is because it's not clear what I want. It's not clear, I mean, because if we're saying, yes, errors are going to become visible to software, then we have to say, well, okay, what is software supposed to be doing about that? And that is a whole separate design problem that actually needs to be solved, as well as deciding what is the behavior of the actual underlying hardware. So Michael, my multi-decade friend and collaborator I was talking to recently, essentially made a suggestion, which is, well, you know, if removing tile failures from the real T2 tiles hurts too much right now, how about adding tile failures to the simulator instead? And then, you know, we could say, well, here, you know, if we had these kind of failures that we're seeing rarely in the T2 tiles, if we had those, something like them in the simulator, so that we could now see how does a plate respond to them, how does a membrane respond to them, and so forth, then maybe we could start to get more clear about what we want, how we would want the response to be, and that would help us then circle back around. So, you know, Michael, you know, when you suggested that, I didn't actually take the idea right away, but, you know, it worked on me, and, you know, this is why Michael gets the big bucks and has to end up running giant committees of academics that produce reports on the next 100 years of AI. And, you know, who's the chair of that committee? Michael Littman. All right, so let's do a demo and then wrap up. Now, all I have to do is press the right button, and I press the one that looks like a demo, and here we are. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is go back to the early, all right, so this is the FaceTime. Actually, I'm going to go back over here. All right, I think it's okay. Yeah, I've messed up my setup a little bit, so I can't actually see myself properly, but we're just going to go with it. So these are the face plants, right? That you see them, and they move around. You can see them moving, and then there's another move, and there's a grow, and so forth. What happens if we start having errors here? Now, the simulator, MFMS, has a couple of different possibilities. I mean, one thing we can do is we can just come in with the eraser tool and, you know, wipe out stuff like that and see what happens. And, you know, that is great. You know, an awful lot of most traditional software is not going to do very well if you just kind of wander through and erase a bunch of stuff. This does fairly well, but it's got a bunch of stuff that, in fact, is still sensitive to that. You can see that packet that's circling around. If we erase that there, now this thing is hung. It will eventually recover because the PQ sequencer that's up there waiting to get that packet come back in will eventually give up and send out another one, but it's going to take too long for us to sit here and watch it, so we'll bail out of that guy. We'll make another one. So, you know, clean erasure of individual atoms is one kind of failure that it's possible to have. But now, after several years of dealing with it, it seems like, you know, it's kind of the simplest one, because, you know, all of these systems are designed to grow from a seed. So finding a hole in themselves just means, well, they need to do a little more growing, a little more healing. And it often doesn't require that much extra in order to do this kind of healing. But we also have the X-ray tool, which just comes in and flips bits, well, that's a little bit too big, completely at random, like that. And look at that, it looks like it survived that one as well. But if we, actually, why don't we put a few more face plants down, just to get more examples to work with. Now, if we start X-raying these guys, you know, because we're so there, that one was so damaged that it actually detected an inconsistency and killed itself. That one too. Oh, that one too. How about this one? Oh, see, this one survived a couple. Wow, see, that's pretty surprising. Now, those guys did not completely die, so I'll put a little bit more X-rays to kill them. So the point of this is that these are all good outcomes, except that we've lost, once again, we've now lost our circulating packet here. So this guy is stuck in a timeout where it's gonna before it's gonna actually start going again. So we won't wait for that. But they either cleanly died and cleaned themselves up. They didn't go cancerous, and that's the major concern with these things that are capable of growing. When you have arbitrary bit failures happening, that you really don't know what's going to happen. And let's just cook a few more and see if we can get something worse to happen. See, that guy cleaned up again, and oh, all right. Well, that guy cleaned up. There's a lot to be said for dying cleanly. So, this is really not that bad from one point of view. But none of this is like the errors that the T2 tile are showing, which is, as far as we can tell, that, packets that are being sent back and forth between the tiles will every so often just disappear. And that's the code that we don't have code to respond to at the moment. The obvious thing to say is, number one, well, then retransmit it and wait until it does respond, but it may never, so that's not a complete answer. And the other approach is say, well, just announce that, sorry, it's not clear that the remote site actually has the updates that we sent it or not. And that's what's new for this update. We've got a new button up here. It's just an X because I haven't made a new icon for it, so it's just the closed window icon. But, and what it does is you swirl it around. Let's see where it is here. Oh, there it is. Actually, we need to make this guy a little bigger. There we go. So you can start to see these red bars flashing around. And what we're doing is we're inducing packet drops in between the simulated tiles. So whenever there's a red thing there between the tiles, what that means is that part, that communication channel between two tiles, like between here, is actually dropping packets for some period of time, and then it automatically recovers. That's why the red bar doesn't last that long. But let's put it in here, and what we see happening is, it actually survives pretty well, a lot of it. It has similar problems that we saw with erasure, the plate, because, that circulating packet that's going around, that's doing border patrol, just to see what the neighbor, whether we've got clearance to be able to move. That thing is extremely fragile. There's just the one, there's no redundancy. All there is the backup timer to initiate another one. So that's usually the problem that we run into, is we lose the circulating packet, and here it is again. But other than that, it does fairly well. And that's encouraging to me, because it suggests, well, maybe we could just go ahead and maybe even silently cover over the fact that we never got the acknowledgement from a neighboring tile telling us that it got our cache updates and applied them so that we're still in sync. There's a lot of redundancy in most of what the plates are doing. We shall see. Now, just for a couple of minutes, let's look at another one here. So this is the T2 tile, the T2 tiles. This is the L2 plate. So let's make a. All right. So there's an L1 plate. This doesn't do much of anything, and we can put a seed and L2 plate around it. And this is all that we've seen before. But now we can try the same things. If we come in with the eraser tool, we can make it even bigger. What the heck? Like that. This thing is pretty good, because at the level 2 level, any of these individual L1 plates, level 1 plates, are sort of optional. And the level 2 plates will reseed each other from the neighbors when they detect a problem. Again, in the same way that because they grew by seeding themselves, they heal by growing in the same way. Let's try the X-ray. Come in here and really mess it up. Okay. Yeah. All right. See? Step 1, the L1 plate and the L2 surround. Look at that. It's struggling. It dies. See, it's trying. See, all right. So the trick is the L1 plate needs to die completely so that when it gets reseeded from the neighbors, it doesn't get contaminated by the dying previous one. So it looks like we've actually succeeded. Oh, not quite. Here, let's mess up some more of them. And all right, so now these things were both messed up so bad that they died. But is it gonna? Yeah, it's gonna. Okay. So that's pretty cool. That's pretty robust. Look at all that. I mean, we're flipping like hundreds and hundreds of bits completely at random inside the event window, inside the tile sites that are all there is representing this stuff. Now, the code that's running, we're assuming that's in sterner memory, that's in flash memory and so forth. The X-rays are presumed that they can't get to that. If we have that at another level, we would have to have yet another level of healing. But this is pretty good. And all right, let's get our intertile event failures going here. And well, of course, this one is hardly even spanning the edge, but in fact, it's really quite robust to it as well. So, to me, that is net hopeful. That the plates, for example, since that's the stuff that we're intending to build on, have a lot of redundancy, and there we go. From there, that we may be able to cover up a small amount, not too much, of the actual sort of middleware software. It's not even literally hardware necessarily, although it might be. We don't know what's causing those failures. They only take 2 or 3 days before they happen. So that's good, and that's what I wanted to talk about today. So that's it. And the next update will be in 2 weeks. The goals for next time is have some fun making something do something by itself, and we'll see how it goes. Again, thanks, folks, for stopping in. Have some fun. Make something. Hope to see you next time.